This lesson is 8-9A, Volume of Spheres. Don't forget to write your objective in your box. Learn to find the volume of spheres. A sphere is the set of points in 3 dimensions that are a fixed distance from a given point, the center. A plane that intersects a sphere through its center divides the 2 halves, or hemispheres. Now, to find the volume of a sphere, the volume V of a sphere is 4/3 pi times the cube of the radius. So if you're going to look at that, you're going to have V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So if we look at our number 1 example, we're going to find the volume of the sphere with radius of 12 centimeters, both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth using the pi button on your calculator. So remember, volume of a sphere equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So in this case, our radius was given to us of 12 centimeters. So we're just going to have 4/3 pi 12 cubed. So when it's asking us to find it in terms of pi, you're going to take the numbers and you're going to multiply those out on your calculators. You can do 4/3. I would suggest probably using the ABC fraction button, but put your 4 fraction 3 and then 12 to the third. And remember, when you're doing 12 to the third, you're going to put it in the calculator. You've got your 12 and then that little upside down V and then 3. That's how you're going to put 12 to the third in your calculator. So to take 4/3 times 12 to the third, you're going to end up getting 2,304 pi centimeters cubed. That's what it means when it asks you to put it in terms of pi. Then if you take that answer and multiply it times pi, you will end up with 7,238.2 centimeters cubed. So why don't you pause the video and try number 2 on your own. If you did your math correctly, you should have gotten 85 1/3 pi meters cubed, which is actually 268.1 meters cubed. So let's look at number 3. You're to find the volume of a sphere with a radius of 5 feet. Again, both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth. So if we try this out, again, volume equals 4/3 pi, our radius, which is 5, cubed. You should end up with 166 2/3 pi and that would have been feet cubed. Remember, volume's always cubed. And then if you multiply that times pi, you will end up with 523 0.6 feet cubed. Now this one, we're getting into some pretty big numbers here. The moon has a radius of 1,738 kilometers. Find the volume of the moon both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth using the pi button on your calculator. So if I'm going to start writing this out, I've got volume equals, remember it's 4/3 pi. My radius is 1,738, and then we're going to cube that. Remember, put 4/3 in the calculator times 1,738 cubed, and you will end up with It's a really big number. It should take up almost the entire calculator screen. But it's 699,983,9029 pi kilometers cubed. Like I said, a really big number. But now when we multiply this by pi, you're going to end up with an even bigger number. In cases like this, remember back when we used the scientific notation? This is when that's going to come into play, because that's a really big number to have to deal with. But if you put this in the calculator, it's actually going to end up putting it in scientific notation for you. You're just going to, again, round to the tenths, which in this case would be 2.2 times 10. If you notice that the calculator, you have a little times 10 in the bottom right-hand corner, and it says times 10 to the 10th. So remember, that's scientific notation. That way we can take a really big number and make it more manageable. So it's 2.2 times 10 to the 10th kilometers cubed. Now back to some of the smaller numbers. Let's try this one. It says to find the volume of a sphere with a diameter of 8 feet, both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth. Now the thing you have to watch out here is that if you notice, it's given the diameter. Remember, just like the circles, the diameter is going to go all the way across the sphere, and the radius only goes halfway across. So to find the radius when you're given the diameter, you're just going to take the diameter and divide by 2. So if the diameter is 8 feet, to find the radius, we're just going to divide by 2. So you put 8 divide 2, which is going to give us our 4-foot radius. So then to find the volume, again, it's 4/3 pi, our radius, which is 4, and cubed. When you do this in terms of pi, you take the 4/3 times 4 cubed, and you will end up with 85 1/3 pi feet cubed. And again, if you multiply that times pi, you'll end up with 268.1 feet cubed. A little bit smaller, more manageable number than before, isn't it? So for number 6, you're supposed to find the volume of the sphere, both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth, using the pi button. And it's a 3-inch radius, so don't forget volume equals 4/3 pi radius cubed. So pause the video and try this one on your own. And number 7, it tells you to find the volume of a sphere with a diameter of 6 meters, both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth, using the pi button on your calculator. So don't forget, you notice, diameter of 6 meters. And remember, when we're finding volume, it's 4/3 pi radius cubed. When you get done with both number 6 and number 7, bring them up to me to have your notes checked and make sure you got the right answers. Good luck.